I want to be seen and heard. You got a lot going on back there. It's like, we got a little
I
party.
do.
It's just,
I
yeah,
could.
we could. Well, yay. Okay. And
I
nobody's,
like the
nobody's,
fading, so if it annoys you, I can change it.
it
But
doesn't annoy me. I don't care. I mean, it doesn't annoy me, is what I'm saying. I do care.
it's good.
I care that we're going to just do it this way and it's going to be great.
Yeah, it'll be good this way.
So, and also, so I don't have a lot of followers yet, and so the majority of what we share is going to be heard later on YouTube, which is fine either way. So I don't often do a lot of interacting with the comments. I might catch something here or there, and I usually see them, but I don't necessarily, because people just hop on and say hi, and I don't want to interrupt our conversation. So just know I'm going to be focused on you, and it is going to be what it is. So,
Perfect.
um, and thank you, first of all. Thank you and welcome. And I kind of, because it's been a minute since we talked, I'm going to say how I met you, but I want you to take a minute after that and kind of tell us what you're doing and promote whatever you would like people to support you with, because I'm always about reciprocity. So I
Yeah.
want to say to start with that right at the beginning of the pandemic, you put out in, I think it was a painters group on Facebook that my husband was part of, that you just wanted to talk to any tradespeople, blue collar workers. I'm a professional interior painter. Um, about what was going on and how we were all doing with it and all the different restrictions and how they were affecting business and different things. And he didn't want to do that because he's a lot more introverted than I am, but he knew I would enjoy doing that. And so I was a guest on your blue collar,
In the
what's the
Blue
name
Collar
of it?
Tribe podcast.
Yes, Blue Collar Tribe podcast, which was wonderful. And then I see that you're doing some other things now, but when I was thinking about guests for my live, which I do every Tuesday at 7 Central, I thought of you because we've just always had great conversations and good connection and things. So tell us a little bit. I mean, it's probably been a year or even a little bit more since we really connected like
Mm-hmm.
this. So tell us what you've been up to and what you're currently excited about.
I'm excited to wake up every day, first and foremost. Like, I'm not
Same.
going to lie. Like, I thank the universe every day that I wake up. And I know that price sounds like, oh, this dude. Like, no, for real life. That's just my personality. Like, I wake up, my wife's there, my dogs, my kids. Like, it's awesome. Whatever the rest of the day is, so be it.
Yeah.
So, um, what am I doing? That's a great question, honestly, because I completely 100% shut my paint business down.
Okay. I was
100%.
wondering about that. Yeah.
I did. I'm not going to go into that.
No,
Uh, it's
not necessary.
very, it's one of those things that I
We're
get asked
moving
the
forward.
question. Yeah. It's a question that, honestly, if I'm being real, I'll probably take it to my grave. Like 100% of the reason why I did it doesn't. When you're a business owner, I'll say this. When you're a business owner, you have an infrastructure that you combine a lot of people around yourself. That the structure's there, and a lot of them are on your side, and a lot of them aren't. Then you incorporate the employees. I don't incorporate them as the infrastructure in this conversation because when someone comes in and out of your life so much, like a revolving door can, you can't have them. And that's what I learned from my businesses is they're not an infrastructure to the business. No matter how much you let go or how much you control, see, I'm telling you without telling you, then you have to realize things. And, you know, I, is this PG or can I speak my pirate mouth? Um,
Pirate mouth is out. You do you.
I fucking love what I did. I woke up every day
Yeah.
for 5 years, 6 years, never dreading what was in front of me, and I still don't. But it made its way. I launched another business while owning the contracting business, and that business wasn't going to launch. And without having both of them, I felt it wasn't the direction that I wanted to head in my professional life.
Yeah.
Safe to say. So what am I doing
Well,
now?
yeah. So
I
what's the current focus? What are you excited about? Because I know you get excited. I do too. That's part of why we bounce off each other and do such a good job, like,
yeah.
collaborating on things. So tell me what you are excited about, what you love.
I love that I don't know what tomorrow brings. And that
World right now.
scares people. I love that I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring me. I really don't. Like, I own a podcast, hence the new name change, the T True Crime. My wife and I, Shama, who you've met, and she absolutely loves your book and what you put out. She's like your husband, though. She's not really going to be on camera, but, you know,
Right. Right. They're going to be
she
your
actually,
biggest cheerleaders, but definitely behind the scenes.
yes, your book that you sent me, when I got it, I kind of flipped through it the very first day. She took it from me and read it in 2 days. She's like, okay, yeah. I'm like, where's, she's like, I wanted to read it first. So go read
Love
her
it.
book if you guys haven't. And
Yes. Read my book. Yes.
read your book. It's very therapeutic in a way of like, I said this to someone recently, like, sometimes the words are better spoken instead of being held within. And that's why I love this new generation of people because they're speaking what they really are thinking. And if you go back to the 90s and 80s, I'm 42. So when you go back to the 79 moving forward, even farther than that, you weren't allowed to speak your truth. It was Mrs.
Yeah.
Johnson, Mrs. Smith, brother, if you're religious, brother
Yes.
Jones, whatever it
And
was.
we were fine. Everything was fine. And we
Yes.
were fine. Yep. We did
But we
not talk about it.
weren't fine. We
No, we
weren't
were not
fine.
fine. But we
We were
said we
not fine.
were, and we really tried to convince people. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was how I was raised. In fact, I say that right in chapter 1. We were
Yeah.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah. So I own a podcast. I'm doing that. The business that I initially launched is still there. Um, I'm just creating as a social media for those that I mean I know that you said explain who I am. So not I go by the name Splash on social media. I don't hide my personal name. It's just I have like 15 Instagram and 2 TikTok accounts where people throw hate at me, which I love. So thank you if you're watching this. I really appreciate it. You've made me a lot of money. But in the big realm in the big picture is that I love helping companies that launch that start up, and I found that passion. But I also realized that these people don't have money, and you're in the trades, and I don't want our conversation to be trades. That's where we know each other. But you and I, on a spiritual connection base, really touch with each other. You know,
Hmm.
like seeing you, I feel like it was yesterday I talked to you,
I
honestly.
know. We've lost no time. It's the coolest thing.
No, and
Absolutely.
it's very rare that I feel that with other people. But in the space of what so people understand, like, oh, this dude just does social media stuff. I do, like, I genuinely do. But when you create this remote and it does certain things, you probably had to spend $45,000 on this. So you don't have money to market yourself. So that's what I do. If you're an entrepreneur, I help people launch. There is a cost to it, and I've really had to reevaluate that. But in the meantime, I'm focusing on the podcast. I love true crime, but my wife, being the spiritual, she's much more spiritual than I am. Um, that she comes from the karma side of life when we talk about true crime. I come from the, well, what was going on in this person's life? Why would you wake up and that's what you did? Whether it's the kidnap, you name the crime, that's what it is. But
Interesting.
it's really broken down for me, and I love it. We've got some big followers on our podcast, and the thing about true crime is that everybody's doing it. It's can you do it in a way that's different, and that's where we're at. We're 12 episodes in, and we're still finding that. And
Sure.
I don't care what you do, what business you've owned. If you don't take your business or what you do every day, because not everyone is going to be a business owner. Not everyone wants
No.
to be the business owner.
Right.
It's not a plus or minus. When you hear people say, "Well, I have the freedom," you don't fucking have freedom when you're a business owner. It's okay to be paid by someone else for a skill set that you've learned to have and make
Yeah.
good money. But I will tell you this, go to those people after you've shown your ability to do what they've asked and succeed, and then say, hey, I want more money because you've seen my value.
Right.
That is, you know, a big difference of saying, well, the saying you work for the man. You can work for the man all day long because I love owning a business, but I have 12 other friends that are like, dude, I could never fucking do that. I'd rather go
Uh,
work for a painter.
yeah. The
So,
important thing is to know which one you are.
yeah.
And if you're feeling really curious and you have the freedom, then try it out. But I think I love your both and. We can have these different passions, these different ideas, and we can recognize all the other nuances that go along with it. And I think that's one of the things we always connect over. It's the people aspect of everything that we do. And it's the idea that there's so many more layers to this than where you and I both came from, which was very much this is black and white. You're in the trades, or you're blue collar or you're white collar. You're emotionally intelligent or you're a man, that kind
Yeah.
of thing. And I love that whatever you're doing it with your whole heart, and that's so obvious. And you want to impact people. You want to help grow them. You want to give that, like, I don't know if teach is as good as maybe inspire and
Mm-hmm.
support and to help them, because that's what you do for yourself. That's what you do for everybody that you're connected with. That's the vibe I get off of you every time we connect. So,
Yeah. Inspiring is the right word. And I know I said what I'm doing is the true crime, but first and foremost, I'm being home. Being a contractor took me away a lot. My kids are at a very awesome place. My daughter, in fact, asked me today, Dad, when are you going to go back to painting? I don't know if they're sick of me being home, but um, I'm going to
why do
call
you
it
ask, daughter?
the Tom Brady effect. No, it's it's that I grew up and bounced from 34 plus different foster homes. 34 is the number I found, but there's a gap in those. I got adopted, and my parents that adopted me weren't around because they got divorced, got remarried, and were wanting to enjoy their life with their new spouse, which I totally, as an adult, even as a young man, I understood that. But now, as a parent myself, and I'm in a very stable, loving, um, like married to a BAMF, my best fucking friend in the world, that I want to be here. I want to do the things that I wasn't able to have. And when my kids say they want something, and I don't want to embarrass my daughter, but I'll just say this. I picked her up from school. I drop them off every day. They're going to start walking as a little warmer. But my daughter gets in the car. She's like, Dad, I had a great day. I'm like, that's awesome. She's like, I broke up with my boyfriend. And she looked at me and I looked at her and said, do you want ice cream? She's like, yep, take me to Dairy Queen. Let's get a double dip together. And I, if I were a contractor driving, now you know this because you're married to someone, but you also know me, I wouldn't have had that opportunity if my
Yep.
and I'm in a very unique situation, so I can see the comments right now, like, oh well, you don't know the situation. I get it, but you
Yeah.
can make that time is what I'm getting to, and I make that time. I wake up hella early, sometimes 4 o'clock in the morning, do a bunch of work, 7:38, go take my kids, come back. So I have that ability. So when people say I don't have the time, I've had 3 jobs at one time and I made time. So you can
Right.
do that.
we
So
and ultimately we do make time for the things that actually matter. And they whoever people have said, if you're curious and you want to sort of do this self-awareness assessment, track the things you spend your time on for a few days in a row to actually see, because regardless of what we think or what we maybe should, or all of the stuff we say we would like, what we're doing is actually what we value, because that
mhm.
is what we're doing. And so I think if we start from a place of the literal wake up call, where like you did, I'm like, I'm missing these years of my children's lives. I'm not okay with that because I came from a place where I didn't have that, and I'm going to be the change I wanted to see in my own life. You know, it's good to remind ourselves and each other and whoever else could be inspired by it, that
Mhm.
you can make those changes and make whatever sacrifices, because it's going to be worth it. It's going to be
Yeah.
worth it if you are aligning more with what you say you care about by actually putting the care into making that happen.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm very interactive, and I'm never going to take your show over, but I want to challenge everyone. If you're listening to this live or if you're listening to this on YouTube, wherever you listen to it, I want you to stop and comment real quick the following, like a thumbs up, something. We've all had experiences, not one, multiple, where someone has said something to you, and that saying, and when I share mine, comment like something where you like, I want to see the thumbs up or whatever. They're like, yeah, I know what that is. My old father-in-law, my ex-father-in-law, bless his heart, is a wonderful man. He told me when he met me, when I married his daughter, I married his youngest daughter, baby Bishop's daughter. Like that was the queen of his family. He said to me after year one of us being married, he said, and it stuck with me. I was golfing, and he's like, "You broke the chains of your family. It's extremely hard for a man to do that." And I add to that now, it's extremely hard for a human to change what they've grown around through society, through school, through the parents, the grandparents. So when I say comment, like if something came into your mind, comment, because I'm sure that all of us can say, I know what Splash is talking about. You don't need to share with us. If you do, comment. But write it down sometimes, because we tend to forget those key moments in our life when someone says something to you, that it's okay to be fucking proud of yourself. It is really
Yes.
okay. It's okay to
Yes.
have an ego. Just
Yes.
check it
Ego
sometimes.
in untherapy, I do teach ego differently in the sense that I don't actually really focus on it. Technically, the teachers that I have learned, that I've picked up a relationship with ego from, really teach that ego is most strictly defined as the separate self, the individualization of us. So on the one hand, yes, we are all connected, we are all one. Also, for me to run a business and be a mom and a wife and all the things I do, I have to be differentiated from other people. So if we look at ego from a place of moral neutrality, then we can also accomplish things and be awesome and overcome generational and ancestral curses and bondage and patterns and programming, and we absolutely should be excited about that and give ourselves kudos, because ultimately no one else knows how hard that was to the degree that you do. And if you will honor that in yourself, it just empowers you to do even more. And I think, like I said, when I teach in therapy, and I want to get into this in a minute, just I love the setup though of you kind of talking about where you are and what you're dealing with, because it just helps me kind of know which way to take this. Um, but I just think that your perspective and your determination and the things that you're doing now, that I'm sure have earned you a lot of flack and a lot of raised eyebrows, because they are not the traditional man path, that a lot of especially coming from a blue collar career, are expected of you. And so I think, to be proud of ourselves, and what, like you were saying, to just encourage listeners to stop for a second and say, what is something I've done that I've really made happen, that changed the trajectory of my life, because I decided it was important enough to break some of those old patterns and to step outside of the lanes that had been preset for me, and do something that I cared enough about to do it differently and more more better than how I experienced
Yeah.
it. That's so important. That's not enough. That's everything.
Yeah. It, ego is a funny thing depending on how you look at it. And with our children and our best friends, like we all have a close circle of friends that we communicate our thoughts with. We talk about it, and we may not all parent the same way. We may not all believe the same belief system. That goes down to voting for president, however you want to get into that. But ultimately, society has, in a sense, made us feel like we have to do certain things a certain way. And my three kids have shown me that's not true, and I really have broken those shackles, so to speak, because I can look back at, and anyone that's listening to this can look back at their life and like, I was told this, I was told that. I had a high school counselor, and I'll never forget it. She told me I was going to be in prison just like my parents were. I'm the only sibling that's never been in handcuffs, and I do pat myself on the back for that. It's not that I haven't gotten, it's just that I haven't gotten caught. We all do dumb shit. We've all been teenagers.
And now you're smart enough, you know you're not going to get caught because now you have
Yeah.
the experience to go with it.
Yeah, my face is everywhere, my fingerprints, but what I would tell anybody is be proud of yourself. Fuck what society says you need to do and be proud of you. Because if you sit and just listen to what people have told you,
Yeah.
you're living in the past. And I know I'm saying, well, I look back at my past. I don't look back at it, but it's like building a bridge. There's certain points in whatever you're building. I don't know what people do for work, but whatever you're doing, there's always a goal. But there's certain milestones that you stop, breathe, and say, I got here. It could be the simplest thing as you
Yeah.
writing your first email, your first page of a book, the first time you change your son or daughter's diaper. Amen, you did it. Because I guarantee you
Yeah.
there's someone out
Yeah.
there that says, you ain't going to do it. But
Exactly. Or I could never do it, or whatever that is. And there's a thing that happens in our minds, and I see this a lot in the work that I do because I help people change their neural programming. And it's so common that we do something, we accomplish something, and rather than acknowledging and remembering where we were versus where we are now, it's so human nature for us to immediately just occupy this new place and then begin to imagine where we should be going next, and we discount or forget altogether that we used to think it was impossible to be where we just are now. We forget that there was a journey and we forget that we're different now, and so we become so habituated to the new way almost instantly. Oh, this is how I think. I could never have thought that this was impossible because look, I did it. And yet we did think that, and then we got here, and to get here and to be able, not like you said in a way of looking back, but in a way of just acknowledging that there has been growth. And I think the most important part of acknowledging that process and being proud of where we've gotten is that it propels us on in a very positive way that makes growth less painful and less about, ooh, I don't know if I can change or who I'll be or whether I'll like myself, but more so just about making it a natural state of life. Because what we teach in therapy is that, life is really designed for your growth, for your evolution. It is here to help you heal. Everything we encounter is an aspect that is encouraging us to grow. And the more we recognize that and start to look at the painful parts of our lives and the things we have accomplished with a more open eyed approach of like, oh God, I am doing this. And yay for me and good job, as a way of cheering ourselves on and keeping going. Because again, just like I was saying earlier about nobody knows about your progress. No one knows how hard that was for you to break the cycle in your family tree. Nobody knows the quiet, difficult decisions you made in the dark of your own mind between a path that was going to lead you down and a path that pulled you out of the pit. So who better to acknowledge and celebrate our victories than ourselves? And when we do that from a place of honesty and self awareness, it's not hubris, it's actually humility, because it's incorrect for us to downgrade our successes or downplay them or have that self effacing. Nobody likes to be around that person that's like, oh, it was nothing. No, don't mention it. No, it was something. And if we have that close circle of friends, which I am blessed to now be able to say I do have, that can hold that space with us. And even if they don't understand, they can at least acknowledge that yes, whatever struggle you went through, the fact that you're proud of it, I respect that. I mean, that's true friends. And people that are gonna accuse us of being full of ourselves or try to knock us down a bit, I mean, that's just their own lack of understanding, or feelings of low self-worth. That isn't us. That's not us. It's like you said
no,
about
it's
the
not.
haters. You're like, bring it. They're not going to hurt me. They're just going to build
Yeah.
me up because more attention. So
So, question for you. I'm curious how you feel about this. How do you feel about rented space in someone's thoughts? You've heard that saying lately, like,
mhm.
well,
Sure.
don't let the people rent space in your head. It's something I've meditated about a lot. It's something that it's extremely hard to get through. Some people need medication. Some people can organically do it, and that's okay. But think about that. Like I'm wondering, I'm curious what your point of view is on that rented headspace. And for those that don't know what I'm talking about, what I mean by that is like you have things that you let people live in your head that don't really deserve to. They're not paying for your food on the table. They're not paying for your internet, your cell phone. Whether they're family or not, or even your best friends, they're not paying for that. And if you can, from my perspective, then I'll let you answer. From my perspective, if you can learn to have the thought, because you can't, without certain type of drugs, you can't not think about it. I think you know where I'm going.
Drug joke, Greg.
Yes, but
Okay.
if
Let's
if you
let's try to pretend we don't know what we're talking about.
no,
Okay.
I do. But anywho, but if you can think about it, breathe through it, and then move to the next thought, I believe that your goals can be more achievable, and your personal health, emotional, physical, sexual, all the feels that you need to have become more healthy. That was not proper English. So someone who's a Nazi, write that in the
More
thing and say,
healthier.
that was
More
not
healthier.
right, Splash. More
Hey, this
healthier. But
is
what
my
is
TikTok live and I give it my blessing. So whatever.
so what is your thought on that? Because it's such a big thing in the market, and I'll say the industry, but in the industry of like um, ancestral trauma, you brought that up. My wife is a past life regression therapist. So ancestral trauma is huge. I hear it all the time. But while I'm reading about it, it made me really think about like, oh, okay, I'm letting people live in my head or thoughts, not even people, but a lot of us do. And how would you what would be your direction for like how do you believe in that? Because I know you've probably been there yourself. I've read your book. I know you
Yeah.
have been.
Oh yeah. We've spent some time with some stories and some people and some concepts absolutely governing my decisions without me feeling like I had any control over any of it. So it's a really awesome question. And it honestly is a huge part of what I have developed in Untherapy. So the entire portion of the Untherapy personality model that deals with this issue of, someone's living rent free in my head and I don't know how to break that control that they're exercising over me, whether they're even aware or not. Like you said, it doesn't have to be a person, it could be a concept, it could be, you know a whatever that's basically feels like it's controlling the thoughts or influencing your decisions or makes you not feel like you can have the full agency over yourself. So besides the personality, where it's we've got the inner manager, which is your brain, your logic, your executive function. So that we assign a personality to that. It's one of the four tendencies based on Gretchen Rubin's four tendencies. And then we have our heart, or our inner child, has its own personality. That's our force of nature, which I want to get to. I want to kind of review yours because after listening to you talk this time, I don't know that we had yours right in the first place. So I want to maybe revisit that. Once we figure out once we figure out those, the other piece, we also have our inner guide, which is our connection to the divine or spirit or oneness or the universe, however you want to call it, that brings us those deeper revelations and that higher mind, for lack of a better term. So when we've got something basically tormenting us, we've got that person living rent free in our head, and feeling like we're being influenced and we don't have the control. The protocol I have developed is called super learning, and I teach people how. I call it super learn yourself, because I did one on ones and I developed this through working on myself and working on other people for many years. And what I eventually discovered for myself, I know that there's a lot of good one on one therapists, and I'm sure just even like your wife probably works with individual clients one at a time. And I did that for many years. And where I am now is I love teaching people how to do this on themselves. So for instance, and this living rent free in someone's head is a perfect example. If someone or some person is tormenting you, there is a protocol that I have developed that is, it's simple. I can't say it's easy, because if I had found this 10 years ago, I'm sure it would have taken a minute to kind of trust myself enough to do it in the way that I do now, where it just feels like it comes naturally. But I teach in Untherapy that things come up to come out. So if you're self aware enough to notice that this other person is really bothering you and affecting your day to day decisions and your ability to move about the cabin freely, as we say, then that situation, that relationship to that person or to the things that you are experiencing, the stories you're telling in your head about them or about what you should do because of them, those are ready to bring you the healing, the exact quantity and the right dose at the right time that you are ready to experience. So I believe that we have absolute agency over every decision. I believe that nobody has authority over us in any way, shape, or form. And anywhere that we feel controlled or that we feel restricted or we feel that others are calling the shots for us on our behalf or out of a sense of overlordship, that's an area that we can super learn. So I call it super learning because it's not conventional logical learning like you would read a book and take a test. It's super in the sense of over or beyond learning. So it's dealing with the learning that happens in your emotional center when it's connected to the divine guidance of your inner guide. And there's a whole protocol, and I'm perfecting that. And I opened the Untherapy Academy, which is an online community where we learn and practice these things and just learn from each other. It's pretty amazing space where I've gotten to really, I mean, I learned a great deal, even though I'm the one facilitating it. And really, we do this. Well, let's say, for instance, like we have class tomorrow night, somebody will come forward with a struggle they're having. So let's say, for instance, their partner is just really getting on their nerves. There's things they're doing that are just affecting this person all day, every day. It's the whole living living rent free in their head. So beyond the time they're with them, they're just really struggling with the sense that my partner doesn't have my best interest in mind. They're destroying my life. I'm miserable. I'm stuck. I don't know what to do about it. There is a protocol where you can take yourself on an internal journey of discovery and take that sense of frustration and feeling controlled, and you can access the lesson, the healing, and the divine wisdom that is encapsulated inside that pain point. And you can open that up, uncover, discover it for yourself. And the thing that I have found that is the most exciting is that when you find that truth for yourself, from yourself, you believe it on a heart level. It is already in your bones. So it's less about learning and remembering, and it's more about discovering and accepting that you already knew, that you've known all along, and now you are ready. You were ready to integrate that aspect of yourself. And now that person that was tormenting you, living rent free in your head, has now become your greatest teacher for that moment. So it is not a matter of, muscling them out of the way so that you can regain your power and be back in control of your life. It's more that you have changed your entire perspective on the situation and on that relationship, because everyone that lives inside of our head is a reflection of some aspect of us that we are trying to understand and integrate. So that's my take on people living rent free in our heads.
It's a good take. I love it. When people
Yay! I'm
don't,
glad you love it.
I do love it. When people don't, how do I say this? The human mind is set to fear because we don't want rejection. We don't want to go to the other scope. We don't want to hurt people. There are those that do like to hurt people, but usually those that like to hurt people are people that fear rejection. And with fear, I use those things like use the letters, and I wrote it down because I wrote this down years ago. For me, fear is fear of fault. Where do you blame the fault at? It's okay to take some of the blame. It's okay to say, I guess I'm getting to before I go there is once you acknowledge the fear and you're ready, like in your own therapy sessions, when you're ready to take accountability and action, because I think that's the biggest thing that hurts human success is their ability to act on something. But with fear, and I'll send this to you later if you want it, but fear is first finding the fault. Is it you? Is it
I'm
a
just making notes too because it just
no?
helps
You're
me
okay.
listen better.
Did you let someone put the fault there, or did you put the fault there? Is there even fault to give? Because there's something that's saying, I don't want to rip this off. I don't want to have the conversation with my wife or husband saying, hey, I don't think this is working out, or my employees. Then go to E, erase. Can you erase the thought? Maybe, but you can't erase anything without the next step of acknowledging it. And acknowledging that this is concerning to me. We'll go back to what you were saying, the wife, the husband saying they don't have my best interests around. Well, do you have the best interest for yourself? That goes back to fear. Like, are you the one that put that fear there where you couldn't succeed? So the other person is just feeding off your own energy that you can't see, you only feel it. But if you're not intuitive enough to your own mind and soul, you can't feel it to know that you are the one that put the fear there. And so the other people around you try to erase it, but then they acknowledge your energy. And once you have those three of the four letters down, you move to the R in fear of respond. How are you going to respond to that? Are you going to take action right away? I mean, there's about 8 human beings in this world that I want to sit down with. And I'll be very honest, I'm a pro cannabis, but it's not for everybody. I want to sit down with Elon Musk. He's one of them. I don't want to talk about his business. I just want to get into his mind and the way he thinks as a human being. But that man probably lives in his head more than anybody on this earth. But he doesn't. He has conquered that fear that he's felt. He's found the fault where it may be. He says, I want to erase it. Now I'm going to acknowledge where that all came from. But the biggest thing that he did is he didn't stop at 3. He went to 4 and went to respond. And he responded by making Tesla, flying spaceships and internet and everything else. So it's amazing. And anyone that's watching this in your therapy group or just the general person that's watching this, I tell you from my soul that whatever it is that you want, you can have. And it's not easy, but it is easy as long as you're willing to take fear out of it and take accountability, because a lot of the demons that we have come from our past because we've allowed them in there ourselves instead of speaking back to where we first started, speaking what we felt to begin with.
Right.
And religion, I will say that
Right.
because I grew up LDS, religion does that to you.
Yes.
But religion's
And there
healthy
can be
for
all kinds
people.
of religions. I
Yeah,
I
religion's healthy
I
for
had a
people.
religion that wasn't. And some people turn, I mean, you can turn anything into a religion. You can turn atheism into its own religion in the sense that religion can be, and in my case, and it sounds like potentially in your case as well, religion can be just a set of external rules that disconnect you from that trust in your own internal guidance system. And I think your acronym and kind of your way of disassembling fear so that you can understand how to go from a place of um, inaction and like stasis, like no movement, into a place of personal responsibility and action. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And I think we're at a place in the collective consciousness where this is being downloaded into us just from the collective universal love that exists as our basic foundational building block of all of us. And we're getting it on all sides. And any of us who are healers or encouragers or inspirers or teachers are saying the same thing. We're all just saying it in slightly different ways. And so there's going to be people that flock to you, Splash, because they're your tribe and they're your people, and they find you through your podcast and however else they connect with you, and they're going to hear the same thing. Fear is actually your friend. It carries within it the pieces, that the clues to dig your way out of that hole and take the exact inspired action that turn that fear trigger as it started into the precise plan for whatever genius you're holding inside of you, that's wanting to come out. And I do the same thing in my Untherapy Academy, and then all of the other things that I'm doing to bring this out to the world. And I think we're saying the same thing, which is exciting to hear in different ways. It's always stimulating. And then I go back and I get another piece to my puzzle, and hopefully you
Yeah.
get one for yours. And it's like, that's the cool thing about connecting, is that we start to hear those common threads, and I think it makes it less scary for everyone to hear that
Mhm.
we're all thinking the same thing.
Uh,
And fear, yes, fear is in a sense the ultimate enemy. And then the ultimate transmutation of that is to start looking at it from a perspective of, this holds the very keys to whatever it is I want to do next.
the enemy is the enemy within yourself, and I believe
Exactly.
that
And fear is within
there's
ourselves. Where is it
yeah.
located? It's in. It's
Hmm.
fear's not out there. You could take two people. You know, the true crime is such an interesting example, because I it freaks me out. It scares me. I can't. And you love it, and you go into it, and you get these same things I'm teaching through that. And it's just two separate orientations to the same thing, because it's an internal orientation. It's not because that something is somehow static from the outside that affects all of us the same way. We all respond differently. And so, of course, fear is an internal job, 100%. And you said something about it being simple. I think it is simple. I just don't think it's easy, because of the programming we've had, because we grew up in you know just steeped in the idea that if something is scary, run away from it. And we're saying, if
Yeah.
something is scary, lean into it, because that's where you're going to discover your truth and your next right step the most quickly. And it takes, I mean, sure, okay, that's simple. Just rather than turning away, turn toward. That is not easy, because we have to overcome that visceral full body resistance. I feel like a fainting goat just thinking about it. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
you know,
It
we have to somehow maintain presence and openness.
you do. It sucks because I feel like a lot of it is built on what society taught us in the 1900s, early 1900s, and we let it go so long. There's so many changes happening right now, throughout the universe. The kinetic energy that you have every day, it takes more energy to wake up in the morning and do the things you need to do than it does to worry about the dumb shit of whoever's renting in your house. Um, I we went to Billie Eilish last night with my daughter, and she said something in her concert that was so profound, and I don't have it memorized 100%, but her message was pretty simple. It is not my responsibility to worry about what you think about me. And if you can incorporate that into your life on the daily, because I've already been doing it, but hearing it in such an eloquent way was like, hey, that's what I'm doing. Like I I think what you want. You know, but it is hard because I've said this word 100 times. When I rewatch this, I'll probably like, why did I say it so much? Is that there's a certain words that stick out? Like society right now is such this. Just break the fucking chains. Just do it. It is easier to tell someone, and I've been in this place before, so I say this from loving experience. It was easier to go up to my first wife and tell her, I don't love you anymore, but I love you so much that I have to let you go because I can't love you the way that you deserve. It was easier to do that than it was everything else I did up to that point for a year.
Right.
But
Because that was
we,
the next right step that had to, yeah. And that's scary. But it's these big, I love what you said about the respond step in the fear acronym, because we so often are programmed to react, which is the opposite of responding. Reacting is something comes
like,
at
oh,
us
let's
and
fight. Come
we
on, I'm going
aren't
to fight
prepared,
you or I'm going to run
and we
away
don't,
from it.
right, we just react. Versus responding requires self-awareness, it requires engagement, not even in that particular situation. Prior to that, it requires engagement in our own experience with all of the things. And that's, again, that's what I'm trying to do. It sounds like it's what you're trying to do. It's what Billie Eilish is trying to, like, we're all saying the same thing in different ways. And I think if there was ever a time that people were just massively awakening to their own internal power and agency and ability to choose how they respond to life, I think it's now. I think it's coming from every side. So if you're listening to Splash and you're listening to me, um, and you're not sure where to start, and neither one of us resonates with you, well then look for someone else. They're everywhere. It's happening. Everyone is starting to say the same thing, and it is, you are creating the reality you're experiencing. And if there's some aspect of it you don't like, no matter how large or small, you are the only one who's going to fix it. And in facing that and figuring it out, you are going to create a ripple effect that gives others permission to fix the things that they're not happy with. And that's how we change the world.
Yeah, I agree. It's like this, to wrap that up. It's March Madness. I'm a sports nerd, so I'll relate it to this. There's 100 different ways to win a basketball game. There's 100 different philosophies. But you know how you really win a game? Score the most points. But there's 100 different coaches out there teaching 12 men and women how it should be done. And the moral of that
Right.
is it's okay. Find the teacher, not the guru. That's maybe for another conversation. A teacher's always willing to learn. A teacher's always learning without thinking they're learning. You said it multiple times, you're learning things. A guru doesn't learn anymore because they feel like they've reached this Zen moment, but they haven't. But a teacher is always willing to learn. So if you're wanting the change that you're looking for, why you came to Untherapy, why you're listening to this, whatever caught your eye to listen, like, oh man, I can listen to this dude that has weird lights in the background and headband. I should have worn my headband today because sometimes I do. But it's like, it's okay. You'll take it and twist it to make it your own. Don't be afraid to make the change that you want
Yeah.
your own change. Because I only know the things I know from being married to my wife and the meditation. Like, I'll make a long story really short. I had to go buy a new suit. In buying a suit, for most men that I know of, they love it. They get excited. I don't. I want tank tops, flip flops, and shorts if shorts are even an option. But ultimately, I went to this suit place and there was a color scheme, and my wife intentionally didn't go with me. Shama didn't go with me, and my best friend went with me. And I remember looking in the mirror and I freaked out. I'm not joking. I freaked the fuck out because I saw myself being the priesthood holder in the LDS church. I'm not here to bash on the church. I saw that fear in myself. I went and changed. I took it off and I told my friend, I'm like, listen, this is a big moment because I responded to it instead of taking that
Right.
with me outside of the building. So I'm sharing this example it's a little ridiculous. I'm 40, I should be better at this, but I'm always wanting to learn. But I told him, I said, dude, I can't do the maroon. He's like, why? I said, because I look and see myself in my 20s and I don't know who that person was. And I don't want to know who that person was because my belief system was completely shadowed by my childhood, by the things I allowed to do this. I said, but I really like this option, went and changed. I'm like, now this is badass. Even though I probably had the same outfit, but I at least understood where the fault came from myself. I'm erasing that memory of saying, listen, I'm going to get past this because I'm the one that put it there in front of me. I acknowledged it and I responded by saying, I can wear the maroon, but I'm going to look a lot more comfortable and a lot more jazzier for my wife in the all black with the maroon jacket. So I just switched the jacket and shirt around, and it was like a million different things, but it's still the same color. It was the trippiest thing. And
Yeah.
it was beautiful walking out. And he told his wife, then she told my wife, like, yeah, Rob had an outer body experience at the store. And I did, but it's okay. I'm good with it now. Like, I'm not going to look forward to it again the next time this comes around because I don't want to wear a suit. But it's those little things. Like, that's a huge win. And that's to get back to what we've talked about is like, it doesn't need to be big. It was big to me. And that's what matters is I acknowledged it. I'm patting myself on the back for understanding it. The lady in the store, she told her manager, and this is a little bit behind the screen of my personality in public. She's like, she tells her manager, and I overhear, like, yeah, he's being really indecisive. And I walk up, I'm like, you know what? I am being damn indecisive because I don't know what I want. And it's okay. I spoke maybe in a harsh way, but I spoke my
You
truth.
were
But
going
it's
through
like,
it, man. You were having a you were having a life learning moment. So I mean, whatever.
but I would tell people that are listening to this, like, dude, I don't get what he's saying. What I just said is what I'm saying. Work through it. It's a lot easier to do it in
Yeah.
the moment. It's a lot easier to do in the moment.
Yeah.
There are states that are now approving certain types of medication that allow you to work through things quicker. And they're not for everybody, but you can work through whatever you want. You just have to acknowledge within yourself that no one else can fix it but you. Therapists are good. No, no, going to therapists are very healthy. Being part of a church, being part of a club, a gang, a group, a tribe, as I like to say, I have a tribe. They're all great. But when you go to bed and when you go alone, I don't care if someone's next to you or not, you're the only fucking being in this world that has the energy to ultimately change you. I'm happy.
It's
I'm
true.
really happy in my life. Like,
That
it's
is so good. And that's why I called my system Untherapy, because I am not against therapists and I absolutely see the value. I use it myself. When you sometimes need to go to an external mirror of sorts who is trained to help you get through a stuck place. But overall, what you're talking about, the approach to our problems and our stuck places and our fears, if we can understand and fundamentally change our relationship to those and start looking at them as the ultimate places where we are going to experience the breakthroughs and the freedom, and be able to practice being in that moment, so that, yeah, maybe we're buying a suit, but we're also breaking generational curses and
yeah,
growing through these mindsets and coming out with this evolved perspective on life, because we were ready to respond in a moment that we absolutely could not have possibly expected to happen in that moment. You're absolutely right that it is so, so wonderful, but we can't be there and able to respond when we're in that really extreme, in the moment triggered state, if we don't already understand that that's possible. And that's where, like the super learning I talked about, I really encourage people, once they learn the protocol, to practice that in a controlled environment, such as during a meditation time in the morning when they're relaxed and nobody's around and there's privacy, so that they can can teach their nervous system what's possible. This that the baseline becomes this relaxed and open state so that you can almost coexist in two parts, where there's the triggered person who's looking in the mirror at the suit and going and just seeing what you saw and having that flash of deep recognition, and then the other part of you that was able to administer the healing needed in that moment, that created this epiphany and this release that allowed for this healing that happened, just, probably hardly looked like anything from a big picture. You didn't have a full blown meltdown. You didn't have to go to a psychiatric
I
ward and be
may have.
medicated
I'll
for a
have to
few weeks.
ask
Like,
my friend if I did.
you might have blacked out and that time was lost. Okay, we'll
Yeah.
give you that too. But
No,
look
I
where you
didn't.
are now. See?
See, you said something, and you should
So
have this in a chapter of your book, because I believe that, and this is something I work with every day. You said change the relationship with others. I'm going to twist that a little bit from my own perspective, though. You have to change your relationship with yourself. One thing in the last 2
absolutely.
years, I knew 2 years ago I was going to shut my business down. I knew, and I fought it. And I'm not going to cry about it. But I knew I was going to. I knew I was going to shut something down that I fucking loved. Like, I love everything about being a painter, because it's one of those things in this life that it just makes sense and I don't need to think about it. That's what love is
Mm-hmm.
to me. But I had to change the relationship with myself. But for a long time, I tried changing the relationship that I was having with other people, other entities, with
Yep.
marijuana. I had to stop smoking for a minute without smoking cigars. I'm not a really big drinker. I started drinking a little bit more, thinking that would help change. I'm just spilling everything right now. These are things I don't talk about, but I'm going to.
Hey, it's safe
But
here.
but at the end of the day, it's the relationship that you change with yourself. If you can change the relationship you have with yourself internally, the external properties are unfathomable. Now, it's not to say go out there and be an asshole to everybody, because that is my next step. My wife likes to point that out. In her fairness, she does see me, because she sees Splash, but then she sees who I am outside of Splash, the husband, the father, all those things that we are, or that I am.
Right.
But then on the flip side, she's like, why do you do this to other people? I just have a really short fuse, and I'm okay with it. She's not as much, but I'm okay with it. I don't, I gotta watch how I say this. I love everybody, but I don't need to like everybody. And just because I love you doesn't mean I want to see you.
Yeah.
And
And I
that
mean,
is
I get that. I think
extremely
we're
hard for
allowed,
people to understand that.
and
So,
that's okay. And I think we teach people that's okay by practicing it in our own lives and being unapologetically boundaried from those that we just cannot or do not resonate with. And we're allowed for any reason to step away from any relationship, or for not, we don't have to have a reason. We just have to know it's right for us and do it. And
yeah,
I just want to normalize that right now and say, they can call
it's
me an
okay.
asshole, they can hate me for it, but we're still not gonna be friends. So you really didn't change
Yeah,
my mind. And I also, I can love them as a human and as an individual unique soul that is every bit as important as me, but it doesn't mean that I owe them my time or energy, and they don't owe me that either. And that changed a lot. I lost a lot of friends over a short period of time, some of which I actively distanced myself from, some of which reacted to the changes I was going through and distanced themselves from me. Whatever the case, I look back at that chaos with zero regrets, because and align with their left and the new people I made space for, it's hard to feel sad about the loss because it's not
yeah.
loss. It's none of it's
I
loss.
want I want to go back to two things, because we're gonna go back to what you wanted me here for. But you, about the rent thing. If you think of things living in your mind, like the saying, "Don't let them live in the rent free." It can also be an inanimate. It can be a thing, a thought, whatever.
Yeah. It can
Remember
also be
this.
an
Try to.
obsession with something.
Oh, absolutely. Don't stalk people though. From the true crime person, don't stalk people. It's fucking creepy.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Hold on. Let me write that down. Give me a second. Don't.
yeah,
Okay. Gotcha.
yeah, don't
Gotcha. I'll
stalk.
stop doing that.
That rent actually comes from love. When you sit and think about it,
Oh, yeah. I get that. Makes total sense.
love is a weird connection. So you said that you our last conversation we had a while ago that it wasn't right. You don't think what your I forget what the word would be to use. Your Untherapy, like what we talked about a few years ago, you felt like it wasn't right. I think it was right. No, I will say this: it was right, but I really, like I said, in the last 2 years, I've made a lot of growth. So it changes
Mm-hmm.
the direction, the energy, the uh, people fear change, but yet we change all the time. And
Yeah, we do.
if
Nothing
you just
ever, no one and nothing ever stays the same. And if we try to, we expend
yeah,
all of our energy in something that's impossible. So I think what you're saying is, we have this untherapy model, which we don't have to get into that. We can do that another time. I think we've had a really rich and wonderful conversation. I don't really want
organic.
to take a left turn.
That's the thing with
Yeah,
us.
very organic.
You and I have the weirdest organic conversations. It's great
We
because we
and
always
what
have a
needs to come
topic
up comes
comes
up,
up.
right.
Yeah.
So I think what I was picking up on when I said, we found your personality within the therapy personality model, and I don't know if we were right. What I think what I mean is I'm recognizing how much you've healed and how much more in possession of your own aligned self that you are now, and it feels different to me than it felt before. So I took what I felt, I perceived in your presentation prior, and I think what you're showing me now feels different to me because there's an alignment there. It feels, I'm just going to explain the feeling to me, and then again, we don't have to do this actual personality part right now, but you feel like your pace is less. I'm not going to say it's slower. It feels in a sense more intense but more purposeful, and there's a calm and a confidence that feels bigger than what it did before. That's just me interacting
No,
with you and
you're
feeling, wow, this guy's
we
different.
we can talk about it. It really is. I turned my ego to confidence because I knew what I have. I know what I brought to the table. Um,
Right?
I had my mother passed away, and that
Yeah.
a lot of people don't like to talk about it. I don't. I generally don't talk about it in the sense of like sharing that, but I also want people to understand that it's okay. You know, I've shared a lot of things I typically wouldn't share, and I know this is going to go on the internet, and I'm fine with that. But I think to myself as like it's like I reached out to. We'll get to what you said, but you're right. But so it explains where my mind is at on this. Is that I reached out to a father today who lost his daughter. She was murdered 2 years ago here in Utah. It was horrible. Like any murder is horrible, but it was something that happened at 12 at midnight. Her case made national news, and the mother and father are having a hard time with it. But what really got to me, and what Sham and I are doing with our podcast is we're going to tell the crime, but I've learned from being someone who listened to podcasts every day in true crime to now being the reporter in that is that these families deal with so much. So what we do is Sham and I have this calm to us that when I reached out to this gentleman, I said, listen, I don't want to tell the crime, but I want people to know who your daughter was. I can't
Mm,
tell you that these crimes aren't ever going to happen again. But I know for certainty, whatever you share with us about how you and your family are digesting this every day, and you have to be very selective in how you use words, how
of
you
course.
digest it will help someone else when they get in this situation or already in the situation. So
Right.
I'm trying to, and it's not easy because it's extremely sensitive.
Yeah.
And 2 years
I
ago
can
when we talked, I would have never been able to do it. but
Right. I
is
got you.
that I want them to feel a safe space because their story, like everyone else's story, is going to impact somebody. I remember growing up and doing the things that I thought were successful in my own teenage mind is that I want to change the world. I want people to remember who that little boy was. And we'll
Yeah.
just call him Little Splash. I wanted people to remember what Splash was. Little Splash. And when I shut my business down, I probably cried for about 2 days, very privately. And in my meditation, I realized what Little Splash wanted, he did. I changed a community of blue collar people and the perception that they were and taught them. And I gave things away. Bullshit or not, I didn't make a lot of money from my social media, if anything. Meaning, I wasn't making money from the companies I was working for. Everything I did was out of love to inspire, to to give. And when you wake up in the morning, when you're in the position I put myself into, because I did that, I'm my ego of being proud of myself, I reached out to companies like you, said, hey, you made this. I want to give this out to people. I have 8,000 followers, more than that now. Send me 20 of them and I'll do the work for you for free. And I did it. When you wake up the next morning, especially after Christmas, and someone gets an email and you've told them, hey, you won because they didn't catch you live, and they win a sprayer, and you get a phone call that they needed it, whether genuine or not, because that's not my responsibility. That's how you
No.
react. But at the end of the day, I felt so proud of myself because if I left this earth in a shadow of dust tomorrow, that person is going to take that positive energy and share it with others. And hopefully, my goal would be, my ultimate desire would be that they do that domino effect. And I sit back now, I've been very quiet on social media for about 8 months intentionally. And I'm seeing it happen. And God, do I love it. So I'm not missing out on anything because I
Yay.
made that change. So I'm bringing that over. So when you say those change the deep, like my energy's high now, 4 weeks ago would have been low. But everything you said, it's, someone keeps calling me, and I wanted that change. So,
Yes.
moral of what you've gotten from Splash, if you've listened this whole time, is that like you have to defeat yourself by overcoming the fear that you have in you based on, unfortunately, the weird things that go through your mind and what you've set there, because no one has set fear in front of you but you. No one
Yeah.
has set
Yeah.
worrying about Johnny if they like you. No one has set Johnny didn't set that in front of you. I'm not talking
Right.
the T job where they may or may not like you, you know? I'm talking about the truly organicness of what goes through your head every day. I still work on it. I meditate all the time. And by the way, guys, I have a lot of energy. Meditation doesn't mean sitting like this for 45 minutes to an hour. You can meditate whilst doing other things if you put your mind and body and soul into that thought process. Yeah.
Amen. Absolutely. Well, we've gone a bit over the time that I normally allow, and I think it's perfect. And I think what we got to talk about is perfect. So we'll have to do this again at some point. And I just appreciate Splash you sharing your evening with me and with us. I'll be posting this on YouTube so that anyone who wants to catch the replay will get the whole tea. So thank you again for your time and for your wisdom and for sharing your journey. It's so important. It makes it normal and safe for other people to open up and be real as well. And so I'm glad our paths
Be
keep
weird.
crossing and that we keep learning together and separate. And
Yeah.
yeah, let's stay in touch and keep each other apprised so that we can keep supporting each other.
Yeah. I want to
on our
say thank you
journeys.
for having me on. I know our journeys. I appreciate having me on. I know this is something you've put a lot of energy into. If you're new to her channel, like I remember our first conversation, how important this was to you. And like I said, I've been active on social media for intentionally. But when I see you, it makes me smile because you're doing, I know what you care about, and you're learning every day with the
Yeah.
people you're teaching, and that's important. It's important to have those teachers that are always wanting to learn.
Oh
So
yeah.
thank you for that. And be weird, guys. Seriously, like, don't. Who cares what people think about you? Like, it's just you.
At the end of the
No
day,
one, no
it's
one
all about you.
matters.
It's just you.
Yeah, it doesn't
No
matter.
one's paying attention. It's all for you. They're all there
Yeah.
for you. You're the main
And tell
character of your life. Be a good main character and write an exciting story.
Yeah.
That's all
Tell
I
your
do.
husband I said what. Tell your
That's
husband I said
all
what's
I
up.
do. Thank you, Celeste.
Thank you. We'll
I
talk to you
will.
later.
I will.
All right.
And see you next
Have a
time.
good
Thank
one.
you all.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.